instructors and leadership students, this video is going to be about teaching students how to focus their body. And we'll fine tune it here in a second about talking about focusing your body during the warm-up. In general, I want to kind of read this statement I wrote out earlier because I've told you before I'm better at writing than I'm talking off the cuff. Proficiency or greatness in any physical activity comes through repetition and fine-tuning the body's ability to focus on specific targets. So think about football quarterbacks. They have to be able to throw to a moving target down the field on either side of them, their left or their right. They got to be able to throw. Baseball pitchers have to practice hitting that strike zone in there, hitting that catcher's mitt with a variety of different kinds of throws, right? They can't all be fastballs right down the center. They got to be curveballs. There's got to be all sorts of different things. I'm not a baseball guy. I don't know all of them, but I know there's got to be more than one type. Otherwise, you're going to get too predictable as a pitcher, and all the batters that come up are going to be able to hit off you. Any athlete spends time developing their body's key abilities necessary for their sport. In martial arts, we have to develop our whole body. We got to work on strength, speed, agility, endurance, flexibility, and power with our upper and our lower half. We're working on both sides, our left and our right, our legs, feet, knees, elbows, hands, all that stuff. So this happens through focused practice in all parts of the typical session or lesson. So in warm-up, how do you help teach the students, and why is it important to teach the students focusing their body during warm-up? We've talked about them focusing their eyes, focusing their mind, focusing your body, working on your entire body, and letting them focus on how things feel. This has you focused on a lot of different levels if you're working on things. So even if you're working on, let's say, just a sitting stance or horse stance, you might call it, where both your knees are bent and your punches, you're working on punches straight out there. Or something as simple as working on jumping jacks as a warm-up to get the blood pumping a little bit. A lot of students, a lot of young ones nowadays, I like to throw jumping jacks in there at the beginning levels, at white and yellow belt levels, just for a coordination drill. Because a lot of them don't know how to work their feet and their hands at the same time together, right? So I'll have them start from attention and we'll do it together. Working on letting them think about their feet going out and their hands going out at the same time and everything coming back together at the same time. That might be level one. Then after they've then done that for about a week, okay, now what I want you to focus on is everybody staying together. So let's all count and do it together. So I'm getting their minds engaged a little bit too while we're doing it. Maybe we're counting in English today, maybe we're counting in Spanish or Korean or something, who knows. But we're doing it and they're focused on trying to stay together. So that's another thing they got to do. They got to know how not to go like little spazzes, super fast, or not to go too slow and get way behind everybody else. So they got to find a good happy medium and learn to kind of match everyone. So that's another aspect of how I like to think about, how I like to get them focusing on their bodies, and why, because it's a coordination thing too. I want them thinking about their upper and their lower all at the same time. A piano player, a good piano player, starts learning just the little bass notes on the left hand. They learn how to read the notes, yes, and the staffs and all that, but they learn one hand at a time, and eventually they put both hands together, then eventually they put those hands with the feet, and they're thinking about other things, and they add more and more levels to it, phrasing, dynamics, all that stuff. So we want them to start learning one hand at a time, right? Little bitty levels, basic levels, building blocks, and then start adding on to them. By the time they get to be testing for black belt, they should be able to think on multiple levels about every single technique, not just, my hands have to finish here, but there's a twist that happens at the end. My hips are going to start pulling those arms across my body. I'm going to breathe while I do it. I want to make sure it all lands at the same time. My foot and my hands landing together at the same time. They're thinking about all that kind of stuff in our lessons. By the time they touch for black belt, that's what I want. I want to know and I want to see that they can think about all those different levels. So it might be we're working on those horse stance punches or something, and I want to make sure everybody's toes are pointed the correct direction. Not out at corners at 45 degrees and not one foot straight ahead and the other one's turned sideways, but I'm still trying to punch this way. I want to think about toes pointing the right direction. I want to think about thumb bent just enough. I don't want this, I don't want this. You know how I like to make a good Taekwondo fist. So those are all things I want them thinking about. I want them thinking about them, and I want them practicing, even though they might not be able to think about all that stuff at the same time yet, especially as beginners, as white belts. But I want you to bring it up and mention that kind of stuff to them. That way they can start understanding there's more to it than just my feet point the right way. Once my feet point the right way, that's great. But now my knees aren't bent. Okay, so now I got to think about my knees and my feet. Okay, Thinking about that. And I gotta remember to twist my hands as I'm finishing and coming back with these punches. Okay, gotta remember that. And then I gotta remember not to put that thumb on the side like that. Like, oh my goodness, that's a lot of stuff. And breathe. He's telling me to breathe or yell or something. Oh my goodness, that's a lot of stuff. But I want them, and I want you challenging them during class to think about that and focus on their complete body, not just one part of it, their feet during a punch, because that's not even the most important part of that punch, not your feet, right? But I want them to start getting comfortable with those stances, and that's why we put those in the warm-up. So, last little thing, all those things we put together, from the feet pointing in the right direction, bending your knees, to your posture, your head direction, twisting your hands for the strikes and blocks, breathing, twisting the hips, timing, all that. You develop more, it will help you develop more awareness of your body as you come to learn and understand more about the deeper levels of these moves. So, do I expect white belts at testing to be able to think about all that stuff? No. Have I brought it up to their attention during the 12, 13-week cycle leading up to the test? Yes. At some point I've mentioned to them hip rotation. At some point I mentioned breathing. Now I'm not going to do it all during one class. Today's focus might, focus the body might be, I've seen a lot of people not bending their knees deep enough in those horse stances. So I'm going to really focus on that and make sure they don't, and that's going to be the starter of our focus. That's going to be the first block we build on while we're doing our horse stance punches. But then after we've done about 3 or 4 and I'm ready to give them a new challenge, I want to make sure they're also remembering to point their toes in the right direction or something, but not forgetting to bend those knees, right? It's a building block system the way I like to teach. So make sure you're at a second level of them after they've got that down and they understand, okay, I got to be bending my knees as I'm doing this, but they're not forgetting when you take it to a second level. Now make sure your toes, oh yeah, but don't look down while you're punching, oh my goodness, maybe then it's a chance to remind them to focus their eyes, all that type of stuff. So build a block, use a building block system, but have maybe a different starting point each week, maybe, each class, maybe, I don't know, just depending on how regular your attendance is. I like to kind of keep one theme lasting throughout the week and then focus on another one the next week. That way they have it, if they come to class 2, 3 times, but your average person probably comes about twice a week, then they've seen that and they'll hopefully recall that after 2 lessons a little bit better than if you only had it 1 lesson that week, and then by the second time they come, you're doing something different, your focus is something different. It's harder for that student to remember and recall what we did last lesson. So a little bit of repetition in those lessons I like. As far as a life skill, life lesson, how can you take this and teaching them to focus their body, and why is that important for them outside of here, right? As you become, here's what I like to use for the young ones, all right? As you become more aware of all the parts of your body, so we talk about bending our knee, or bending our thumbs, bending our knees while we're doing this, and they learn, they're able to focus on that in class, and they're able to show that they understand what we're talking about, so they can focus on that and they can control it for a few counts at least. While we're doing punches, before I add another level to them, they were showing a good focus on that, and then I added something else, and then they lost their focus and that thumb came back to here. But while they're focusing on that and they've proven to us and to themselves and to mom and dads who are watching that they can do that, then it becomes a lot easier for them to remember simple things like, I need to sit still. I need to keep my whole body still right now, and that means my thumb needs to not be doing this, my fingers need to not be doing this while my teacher's talking to me. I need to, so it's a lesson in making them aware of their whole body. They might not even think when they first come in that toes pointing in any direction means anything in karate, because they just see all this stuff and they just see it's fancy legs thrown about in the air. They don't know that it's a different kick if your toes point this way versus if they point that way. But we're going to help them become aware of that. That way it'll make things like sitting still in class a lot easier for them, because they'll have a better awareness of their whole body and what their whole body's doing. I'm not wiggling my toes all minute. I'm not picking at my toes or something if I got my shoes off while the instructor's talking. I'm still and I'm focused. So that's one way you can kind of make that a life lesson for them and help let them and their parents know that this is why we choose this topic to focus on in class. So hope that helps you out in your lessons, and have a good week.